episode 4 of the AceTone sessions. I'm your host, Tim Whalen. Today's guest is Herman Burney. Herman is simply one of the greatest bass players in the world. But don't take my word for it. All you gotta do is look at his resume. He's played with everybody from Cedar Walton to Natalie Cole to Wynton Marsalis, Branford Marsalis, Etta Jones, Eric Reed, Hank Jones, and so many more. His humility and love for life come through in his music, and you will definitely see that today. I'm so thankful he's here, and of course, I'm very thankful that you're here. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 4 of the AceTone sessions. I'm so thrilled to have my good friend Herman Burney here.
Oh, man, a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you in my home.
Oh, man, same here. Great
to be able to play music with you is always a joy.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
You've been a very significant part of the jazz scene here in D.C. for many years, so to kind of be part of that with you is just great.
Oh, man, a pleasure.
Where are you from, Herman?
Well, I am originally from Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Northeast D.C. But shortly thereafter, our family moved down to North Carolina. So that's when you say where you're from, born here, but actually raised in the South, raised in North Carolina.
And what brought you guys down there?
My dad got a job.
Great.
And my mom, actually, both of them. And so, we go where the parents go.
So do you even remember moving down there?
Oh, I was less than like 3.
Okay.
So
right. So your childhood
absolutely was in the South.
Right.
Definitely. I'm totally a country boy. Bumpkin.
But then you came back.
Yep, sure did.
And when was that?
I came back to D.C. in 2003.
Oh, okay.
Very quickly, I had lived in New York for a while, lived in Chicago, lived in Atlanta, and for some reason was just kind of, drawn back to D.C. Just always, whenever I'd come through or play or hang, it was just a good vibe. And so ended up back here in 2003.
We all know your main instrument is the bass. Was that always your first instrument? Did you come to it in a different way? I guess I'm also wondering how you came to music. It's a very general question, but was there a specific moment that brought you into the music or that made you realize you wanted to do it? Was it something your parents kind of pushed you into? I'm just curious about how you got to the bass, but even before that, what drew you into music?
Well, some of my earliest memories about music are that, when we first moved to North Carolina, we'll go through this in a 30-second drill. So my folks were working, and so I spent a lot of time with my grandparents who live even in a more country place in North Carolina. And so every once in a while they'd have the radio on, and I'd just hear it, and I'd, kind of get into it here, and this stuff is sinking into my mind. And so then switched back to living with my folks then, not my grandparents at this time. And my dad would have the radio on also. And there was a local station that he would always have playing, whether it was like the news station or just the local music station. And so I distinctly remember hearing all of those songs, just kind of singing along with them. And then the other part of it, you may remember a song, I don't know who it was by, but part of the song says, Daddy sang bass, Mama sang tenor. Mm-hmm. Well, that's really true in my family.
Okay.
Both my parents sung in the choir, for decades together. Dad sang bass, Mom sang tenor. And so hearing them sing, both of them played a little piano. Back in the service, my dad had a piano trio.
Okay.
And so I think all of those things combined just sort of was the first part of your question, which sort of initiated me into just hearing music and all of that stuff.
It was your environment.
Right. And then the second part of your question is interesting. I actually started on clarinet, which is a very difficult instrument. And then I moved around. I played a little drums. I tried to play the saxophone, and then tuba, and then electric bass, which I started, in high school. And then in college, I saw the upright bass and thought, looks interesting, intriguing. And I guess what made it okay for me to try it was I saw one of our heroes, Stanley Clarke, who plays obviously both. And so I saw it, and that sort of made me think, maybe it's okay to try both.
Yeah.
And so I tried it. Of course, I was trying the Stanley Clarke stuff at that time.
Yeah.
And which was great. But I realize now, looking back, that my mind wasn't right. I was going for the double bass for all the wrong reasons. I mean, everything about my approach was just wrong. I hadn't taken any lessons. Mm-hmm. I thought it was easy. I thought I could just translate everything from electric bass. I thought it was cool, so I could meet girls, and all of this. None of that was right.
Yeah.
Everything about it was wrong. And then here's just one thing that really was, for me, a game changer. A friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, a great piano player who helped me out a lot, did a concert once when I was in school. And on this concert, George Duvivier was playing bass.
Oh, man.
And brother, let me tell you,
It got a little deeper at that moment.
That changed my whole life there.
I bet.
It really did. I'm not exaggerating one bit.
So that was a light bulb moment.
That was a game changer for me. I saw this man play. It was obvious that he could play whatever he wanted to. But his discipline and his honesty to the music just turned me around, because he only played what the music needed at that moment in time. It was all taste.
What a lesson, man.
It wasn't about chops or any of that swiftness or whatever you want to call it. It was just right where it needed to be, and that's it.
And that was him. I mean, he was all about, I'm serving, if I'm on this date, I'm serving the date.
Absolutely.
I'm serving who I'm playing with. I'm serving the tune. I'm not serving.
No, not myself. Nothing else.
I'm not, I mean.
And you know, a lot of people, I'm sure you know this, is a lot of people don't realize how much of a musician George Duvivier was. I didn't realize it before either. But this man was the bass player's bass player. Before Milt Hinton, before Charles Mingus, before Paul Chambers. He was there, and he was the guy doing jingles, playing with Frank Sinatra, playing with the New York Met, playing with Bud Powell, playing with, you name the people. He was the guy that ushered in Milt Hinton.
I did not know that.
He was the guy on the scene already in New York.
Okay.
When Milt Hinton moved from Chicago.
Wow.
He's the guy that ushered him into, and we know the story about Milt Hinton, who was clearly a genius.
Yes.
But again, Duvivier was the guy that would say to Judge, hey, listen, Judge, I've got a rehearsal. I can't make it. I want you to do the first half of the rehearsal. I'll be there on the second half. And that was sort of his way of ushering Milt Hinton.
It's interesting. I feel like most people would probably, they'd think it in
reverse.
Yeah, if they were coming at that blind, with some history of the music, they were just what you said. They would think it was the opposite.
Absolutely, yeah, but it was not that way.
Wow.
George Duvivier was the guy there, and he was he had a club at one time. It was called, I think, the Bass Fiddle.
Right.
And he was a fair-skinned guy, and so that alone allowed him into a lot of different situations.
Okay.
But he was there, and he took care of business. I mean, he could play anything on the bass. He could read anything. He could pluck the bass. He could bow the bass. Whatever was necessary, he could do it.
Yeah.
And he did it for many decades.
Amazing.
Sort of behind the scenes kind of a guy. At some points, his name wouldn't be listed. Actually, a lot of times, because he was with the NBC orchestra or the whatever band or something like that. But that was him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. He was playing, like, for instance, with Hank Jones before Milt Hinton was.
I'm getting a lesson right now.
Oh, every time I think about this guy, it's, and I'll give you another example, totally random. I was talking one time to Louis Nash. And guess what? He had the exact same experience.
We started this episode a little different. We started on a little bit of a quieter note.
Yeah, yeah.
You brought in a beautiful tune.
Oh, man, thank you.
Drizzle.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get where the inspiration came from for that. To me, it sounds, it's kind of almost like a hymn.
Yeah. Same here. After I listened back to it, that same impression. It came to me, the scene, first of all. I was relaxing one day. It was literally drizzling outside for a long, like all day, one of those just gray, drizzly, cloudy days.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there, and I happened to be listening to some, I think it was Rachmaninoff and Brahms. I just happened to be listening to them that day. And so I basically, as we all do, I stole. There's no secret. But I didn't take, like, verbatim. I took some ideas from those pieces I was listening to and sort of put them together. And that sort of represents just that time, that moment in time. And that's sort of the feeling I get when it's just that type of a day, just sort of a drizzly, rainy day. And it's sort of God's way of saying, you need to just kind of, the earth needs a little bit of rain here, but slow rain, not a flood or a hurricane or something. You just need to Just take it easy for a second.
As you know, I use this series as a creative outlet for many reasons. Video editing, working on recording, new music to play.
Absolutely.
But also compositionally, it's a way for me to keep writing.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way for me to do that, and it was kind of the inspiration for the series was, well, let's bring someone over and then I can write a tune for everybody that comes through.
Man, I think you're doing a great job for the series, the concept, what
Thank
you're
you.
doing with it. Really, seriously, hats off to you, man. Great job.
I really appreciate that. And my goal with the tune for you was I wanted to get across your spirit, which is very joyful and very you have a very bright spirit, not only as a person, but the way you play. You bring a very positive energy to the bandstand.
Oh, man, thank you. Thank you very much for saying that. I appreciate that.
So I just wanted to try to write something that reflected that.
Yeah, and you did. I think it's a great tune. I want to play it more.
Thank you. Thank you. And the title is Uh-Oh.
Yes.
Why don't you tell the folks what Uh-Oh is all about?
Well, social media, first of all.
Uh-huh.
We all are familiar with social media.
Yeah.
And we are also familiar with the ebbs and flows of social media.
Oh, we certainly are.
So, Uh-Oh really emanated from me being on social media, reading other people's things, and realizing for me, that was not the forum to get into those deep, divisive, very heartfelt and closely held types of issues with people.
Amen.
To me, it seems better if we can just sit down like two normal human beings, talk about it. It's okay that we agree or disagree, that's fine, but we don't have to be ugly.
No.
Is probably the easiest way to say it.
So true.
And so there are many things that sort of got me to that point. Obviously, seeing these sorts of posts. And then I realized that a lot of things in the whole environment were contributing to it. Obviously, one example is election time. You know, the whole political landscape. Things come up and go and change and so on and so forth. But the other thing that I noticed was that people that I knew personally became someone totally different on social media. They would never, ever, some of these folks would never even speak to you in public.
Yeah.
And then in social media, they became a different persona.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting thing.
Yeah, and so I'm not criticizing anybody. They can do whatever they want to do, but I have the choice of whether to get involved with it or not.
Yeah.
And so a direct answer to your question is that Uh-Oh can really only mean that I saw your post.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's so great.
It
That's
doesn't,
the perfect answer.
It doesn't mean that there's agreement or disagreement.
I saw it.
It doesn't mean anything other than I saw your post, period. Or in the case of Uh-Oh, 3 periods. And that's it.
Yeah. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. What does music mean to you in your life?
To me, music it's a blessing, and it's a challenge, it's a responsibility, it's a gift. Music is just embedded in all of our society. I think it's just such an important thing because it encompasses all of the senses. It's something that we receive orally, A-U-R-A-L-L-Y, but it affects us in every other way.